The Springfield Three, the mysterious disappearance that shook America. This story is based on a real and still unsolved crime. The events described have been deeply painful and sensitive for many families. Our aim is not to sensationalize, but to understand this mystery with respect and seriousness. So, as you read this story, please remember that behind it are three real lives and the unfulfilled hopes of their families. The extraordinary tragedy of an ordinary night. In the early morning of June 7, 1992, three women vanished forever from a home in Springfield, Missouri. Along with them, the hustle and bustle, the laughter, and the happiness of a family disappeared from that house. All of America was desperate to know what had happened that night, an event that transformed three ordinary women, Sherrill Levitt, her daughter Suzie Streeter, and Suzie's best friend, Staci McCall, into a part of eternity in an instant. This incident wasn't just a missing persons case, it became one of the most perplexing, mysterious, and tragic cold cases in American crime history. The case, famously known as the Springfield Three, baffled detectives, the media, and the general public for decades. Today, more than 30 years later, the question remains, what really happened that night? That final night, a graduation celebration and a goodbye. Springfield, Missouri, early summer of 1992. The city was known for its peace, small-town charm, and low crime rate. Everyone knew each other, and doors were often left unlocked. That Friday, June 6, 1992, this peace and normalcy marked the beginning of a new chapter for two young girls. Staci McCall and Suzie Streeter had graduated from high school that day. 19-year-old Staci McCall was a lively, cheerful, and sociable young woman with big dreams and countless friends. 18-year-old Suzie Streeter was very close to her mother, Sherrill. She was a sensitive and loving girl, a smile always on her face. With them was Suzie's mother, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. Sherrill was a hard-working beautician who had raised her daughter alone, creating a safe and loving environment in their small home on East Delmar Street. To celebrate their graduation, Staci and Suzie partied all night. They drove around town, met up with friends, and celebrated their achievement. Around 2:15 a.m., they arrived at Sherrill's house with a friend, Janelle Kirby. Janelle dropped them off, and Staci made plans with her to go to a water park the next day. "See you in the morning," Staci said as she and Suzie went inside and Janelle drove away. It was the last time anyone saw Staci and Suzie alive. Sherrill was also home at the time. The morning silence, the mystery of an empty house. The next morning, Sunday, June 7, 1992, Janelle Kirby and her boyfriend arrived at the appointed time to pick up Staci and Suzie for the water park, but no one was there. They figured the girls had slept in or were getting ready. They called, but no one answered. A few hours later, as afternoon turned to evening, Janelle's restlessness turned to worry. She was sure Staci wouldn't go anywhere without telling her, especially knowing they had plans. Around 5 p.m., Janelle and her boyfriend arrived at Sherrill's home at 1724 East Delmar Street. As they approached, they saw the front door standing wide open. Their heartbeats quickened. They called out, but there was no answer. Slowly, they entered, and the scene they witnessed stunned them. What they found inside was like something out of a suspense thriller. Evidence of the three women was scattered everywhere, but they were nowhere to be found. Cars. Sherrill's red 1985 Chevrolet Sprint and Staci's 1972 Plymouth Duster were both parked in the driveway outside. The keys were still in them. Personal belongings. The three women's purses containing money, credit cards, IDs, and keys were left inside the house. Sherrill's purse had nearly $700 in cash, which hadn't been touched. This was a clear sign it wasn't a simple robbery. Clothes. The party clothes, Staci and Suzie's, were neatly folded on a chair or near the bed, as if they had changed to shower or relax. Bed. Sherrill's bed was unmade, with sheets rumpled, as if someone had been sleeping in it or tossing and turning. There were impressions on the pillows where heads had lain. Household items. The TV was on in the living room. Cigarette butts were in an ashtray, some still smoldering, indicating someone had been smoking recently. Dishes and cups were in the kitchen. The family dog was restlessly wandering around. The most puzzling and frightening thing was that there was no sign of a struggle anywhere. No broken furniture, no scratches on the walls, not a single drop of blood. Everything was in its place, neat and orderly. Only one small detail was out of the ordinary. The glass globe of the porch light was broken, with shards scattered on the porch. Janelle immediately called the police, but by then, precious time had been lost. Before Janelle's call, several other family members and acquaintances had already entered the house to see what was happening, in addition to her and her boyfriend. This completely contaminated the crime scene. People picked things up, moved items, and someone had even swept away the broken glass from the porch. It was a major blow to forensic science. Potential fingerprints, DNA, or other evidence were destroyed forever. Lost clues and police difficulties. When Staci's mother, Janice McCall, arrived at the house in a panic, she heard a strange message on the answering machine. The message wasn't very clear, but she felt something was wrong with it. However, in the fear and confusion of the moment, she accidentally erased the tape. Later, when police questioned her, Janice deeply regretted it. Investigators believe that tape-recorded call could have been a major clue, perhaps from the kidnappers or from the women themselves. Even more mysterious was that the same evening or the next day, an unknown man made 2 obscene phone calls. The caller made lewd comments about Staci, suggesting he knew her or had information about her. Police took this very seriously. Was this the same person who had abducted the women, or was it someone playing a stupid prank, unaware they were hindering a serious criminal investigation? Unfortunately, this phone call couldn't be traced either. Chaos erupted as the police investigation began. For the Springfield Police Department, this was their biggest and most complex case yet. 3 women vanishing in one night from a small, quiet town? It was almost unbelievable. Police began investigating in every direction. The FBI was called in. Dozens of detectives were assigned to the case. Sniffer dog teams combed the house, surrounding areas, woods and fields. Even divers searched nearby lakes and ponds. Even trash cans and the city landfill were searched, but no trace of the women was found. Because the crime scene was contaminated right at the start of the investigation, police couldn't obtain any solid forensic evidence. No fingerprints, no DNA, no hair, no fibers. They were left with countless questions and a few vague pieces of information. Suspects, theories, and false accusations. As the case gained national headlines, it attracted a steady stream of cranks, false witnesses, and self-promoters. Several suspects and theories emerged during the investigation, most of which ended in dead ends. Robert Craig Cox, liar or truth-teller? The most talked-about name was Robert Craig Cox, who was in jail at the time for an unrelated case. Cox claimed he knew what happened to the women. He said his mother, who was a friend of Sherrill's, had confessed to him that the 3 women died from a drug overdose at a party at Sherrill's house, and that she and her boyfriend had then hidden the bodies. Cox even stated, "They're dead. Their bodies will never be found." These statements shocked the police. They interrogated Cox extensively, but his stories kept changing. One day he'd say one thing about the body's location, the next day something else. Police soon discovered that Cox was a notorious liar with a long criminal record. His mother and her boyfriend provided solid alibis to the police, disproving Cox's claims. He was eventually convicted for providing false information. Dustin Rikla, Suzie's ex-boyfriend. Another name that came under suspicion was Dustin Rikla. Rikla was Suzie's ex-boyfriend, and people knew about the friction in their relationship. Later,